4700. Go shop around, but come see us last.
It's time now for Comfort Time Live. Comfort Time Live is a call-in radio show educating you on issues surrounding your home. Don't become a statistic. Listen in and find out how you can protect yourself. Comfort Time Live. Comfort Time Live. And now, here's your host, your personal comfort consultant, tackling all of your home comfort issues. Here he is, Tom Platania.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another great edition of Comfort Time Live. I blasted that up there. I love it. I love it. Hey, like I said, that's the only time I ever get an applause is when I leave the room, and so I gotta really appreciate when Cliff lets that applause run a little bit longer while I'm still in the room.
I had to raise it up to sound like the crowd went nuts when the host of the show
I like that.
waltzed into the studio.
And it's all reality, all reality. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have an absolutely wonderful show for you today, but remember, if you want to listen or watch Comfort Time Live, you can go to the web and you can watch us at comforttimelive.com. And you chat with us in the chat room, just a little on the shy side, you don't necessarily, and you can do that anonymously. You can go into the chat room at Comfort Time Live, and you can text us. We have an absolute incredible guest who's going to be with us here in just a minute. And you know, kind of just to lead into it, you know, something I was reading up on. I'm really big. Obviously, I've loved being on radio, and I got my chance over a little 5 years ago to have the opportunity. But I started. You know, I try to do some speaking and speeches and go to places and do a lot of training. But I started really looking into this when this gentleman approached me. And, you know, one of the things that kind of stood out to me in the back of my head from books that I read over the years was the Nixon-Kennedy debate. Cliff, you were, what were you, like 40 back then? Or
No, I was maybe 3 or 4.
it was that long ago.
Oh yeah!
Wow.
Well, wait a minute. No, it was actually it was back probably about
In the 60s, wasn't it?
maybe I was 2 or 3.
Wow.
It was the 60s.
I
it
know
was
I
like
wasn't
19
alive yet.
It was before. It was before Kennedy was president, right? Well, Kennedy ended up. being elected
They were
president.
both. They were the very first debate. Well, you know, there wasn't a lot of TVs back then, so there was a large majority of Americans that listened to the debate.
Mhm.
Okay, and there was a large majority that actually watched it on TV.
Right.
Okay, so to show how powerful the voice is,
Mhm.
and the words that we use and how we say them in our lives, and you don't really, we don't, I don't, I've never really realized it until you listen to people, and some people move you, motivate you more. Well, the people who actually listened to the debate thought that Nixon won. The people that watched it on TV thought Kennedy won.
Wow.
So
Body language had something to do with that. then.
absolutely, body language, but just you're taking a sense out. You're taking the visual sense out, and you're purely using your ears. So, this gentleman, when he had an opportunity to come on the show, I was like, this is absolutely perfect. So, we have a gentleman who his name is Bill Patty. With YourVoiceProfessor.com. He's actually a long-time award-winning national radio and TV personality and voice-over talent. Mr. Bill Patty, welcome to Comfort Time Live. How are you this evening?
Good. I'm doing great. How you doing?
Oh, I am doing absolutely wonderful. It is a beautiful day. I think we dropped like 10 degrees in just a couple minutes here in South
Loved it.
Florida.
Yeah.
Now, Bill,
Oh,
where are
great.
you located right now?
I'm in Orlando.
Oh, okay. So you know what it's like here right
I
now.
know what it's like, yeah.
We can't joke with you about it being 8 degrees in New York or anything.
That's right.
Oh, well, what do I tell you? I've been really excited about having you on, Bill.
Well, I want to give you more information on that Nixon-Kennedy debate. I'm older than you guys.
Oh, thank goodness. We needed that.
I mean,
wisdom.
there was one guy said, "I think Kennedy wasn't elected yet." Yeah, because they were running against each other. Of course,
That's
they
right.
were.
They were always, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the fact of the matter is, the reason Nixon won on the radio is because he was a better public speaker in that sense. But on television, two things happened. Nixon had a fever that night of 104,
Wow.
which is not really known very well.
Uh-huh.
And as a result, he was sweating. He tended to sweat anyway on camera with the lights. There are people that do that, and I do that as well. It's tension, and it's also just the way he was made up. So he was sweating, above the lip. He always did that, and he decided at the last second, because Bobby Kennedy told him that John was not going to wear makeup that night, television makeup, which is a heavy pancake. So Nixon told his handlers he did not want to wear makeup if Kennedy wasn't wearing it, so he didn't, and he had not shaved very close to the time he went on. He really looked bad on television. Kennedy, of course, faked him out and wore the makeup. So this is all part of the psychological things that go on during debates. And, of course, Kennedy won on television, as you said.
Right.
Nixon won on radio, but more people were watching television.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what I was talking about. About 85% of Americans at that time started to come into getting TVs in the households. But I mean, just something like that also really, to me, puts the picture that your voice is huge. I mean,
That's right.
It's amazing, and you and I talking and looking at some of the stuff. It's just just the little things, and we're gonna really get into some good stuff here. Now, your company is called the YourVoiceProfessor.com. What is the significance of being the voice professor?
Well, I was a professor for about 15 years here in the Orlando area in radio, television, broadcasting, which is my background. And, of course, I was on radio and television for many years. So, as a result, I combined those two skills and became YourVoiceProfessor.com, which is my website address, in which I teach people around the world now on Skype how to speak better, how to articulate, resonate, project, pitch, tone, all the things that are critical to success. Where do I breathe when I actually have to use my diaphragm? How do I do that? Where is the diaphragm to get the power in my voice so I make a better presentation, so I can find true love, make more money, develop personal confidence? We can do all those things when we speak better. Women, guys, in case you two didn't know, respond to a man who has control of his voice, who actually can make a complete sentence.
Yes.
Those kinds of things. It's really important. And I'm a dating guy for the last 4 years, twice divorced, I hate to say. And I have to make an impression on women on the phone first. So when I make that great impression, I'm at first base, and, I'm looking to go home. And,
I'm in the middle of dating, too, so I know exactly what you're saying.
That's part of the process.
I'm married, on the other hand, and have taken great delight in learning how to keep my mouth shut.
Sometimes that can be good too. Yeah. And you're right, Bill. It's amazing that you can say the same exact words, but how you say them can make or break you.
Right. So what's the other gentleman's name, Tom?
That's Cliff Desmond.
Cliff. Okay.
I'm the studio
Cliff,
engineer.
Now, when the wife says take the garbage out,
Right.
usually it's take the garbage out. But
Right.
if she said, honey, would you mind if you just take a few moments and help me out and take the garbage out? Chad, you're so sexy when you lift up those bags.
Yeah.
You would get up off of the chair with the beer can and you'd go do it.
I love that.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's
But
right.
there's a reason Cliff's on radio, not TV. Now, obviously, there's one thing. We see these kids. My two daughters that come over to my house. One will sit on one end of the couch. The other will sit on the other end of the couch, and all they do is text each other. And so, my thought would be, with all the new technology, cell phones and texting and computers and iPads and all this other stuff, have we gotten worse or better at communication?
Well, in my opinion, is we are, of course, worse. We do not communicate. I don't have to tell you guys, Thanksgiving dinner around my house is looking at people, with their phone under the table. It's gotten to that point where people will not even spend the holiday discussing anything with you anymore because of the fact people are just so worried about someone's trying to get a hold of me. There's a feeling of importance when they have somebody wanting to talk to them. I mean, I've been in line at here in Florida we have Publix supermarkets, and I'm in line, and the people who are there and they're right with the cashier, they can't even take a second to talk to the cashier to complete the transaction. They're still glued to that phone. Why? Why is it we are so addicted to the cell phone, to the smartphone, the technology? Because today it's about us. It's
Yeah.
we're the most important thing we know is ourselves, and we want to know that someone else loves us too. So I think it's all part of that. It's also wanting to know what's going on around the world and with our friends and all of that, all of this Facebook thing. But the fact is, perhaps we were better communicators with our mouths back in the day when we sat around the table at dinner time and discussed the day's events, when we were on the front porch talking to our neighbors. When was the last time you talked to your neighbors? This is the kind of situation we're in today, and as a result, we are not better communicators when we speak. So that affects us in our careers, in our personal lives, with our friends and family, and this is a real
Exactly.
negative.
And it's it's kind of you look at most of the people, they do everything on the computer, the typing, and then you take that individual with the students today, and okay, well let's put something in writing. Sit down with your hand and write. It's almost the same concept in a way. Is boy, I can type 100 words a minute, but if you put me in front of a piece of paper to try to write something, it's like I forget half the cursive that I learned and how to make certain capitals. Why?
Well, now I know you're older because in some states they have stopped teaching cursive.
Yes, that's what I've heard.
And,
My
yeah,
grandchildren don't know what cursive
Yeah, I
is.
have a nephew who was 16 years old, and no one had taught him how to write his name in cursive because they didn't study that, and his mother had to sit down and teach him how to sign his name so he'd have a signature, because that's a part of who we are too. That signature we make,
Yes.
the way that signature is unique to us, makes us who we are. I don't agree with this cursive situation where we're just ending it. I think there is a place for it in society still today, but all of these things are going away, and 10, 20, 50 years from now, wow, where will we be? I have no idea. It's a little scary actually, because this cell phone technology and the internet has come along, really, if you look back in history, just within the last 10, 15 years, really.
Yeah.
So it's changed dramatically. There was an interesting thing in the online about the fact this gentleman went in the 80s to malls around the country to shoot people at different malls. And he noticed that at every mall, the malls were all the same, but the people reacted differently in the 80s because no one was glued to their smartphone as everybody is today. And you do find people walking down the street all looking down, people in a group looking down. Heck, there was a guy with a gun on a bus that nobody noticed because they were too busy looking at their cell phone. Another lady walked into Lake Michigan because she walked off the pier. I'm not making this stuff up.
I've walked into things before.
I've seen a poor guy walk into a telephone pole on the sidewalk. Oh.
But it's become so impersonal now with the texting and the communicate, even with your dating. So I don't know if you're doing any online dating or just personal dating, but even with the online dating, it's become so impersonal.
Well, I tried a new approach.
What's that?
I've got a sign. These guys have franchises. They're on the street corners.
With the
asking for
spinning
money.
sign?
Yeah, I have a sign that says, will work for a date. I just stand out there hoping someone will talk to me. The fact is, it's tough with texting, and you've got to be up on all the technology. When I first started dating, I wasn't into texting yet, and women would just act like I was, a dinosaur, so they wouldn't talk to me. You got to really be, you got to go with this stuff, or you're not going to have dates. And people want to communicate that way. It's very rare a woman will not want to communicate in those fashions. So you have to stay up, but don't worry. You've still got to keep that communication with your mouth going. You've got to be able to speak. You've got to be able to be charming and unique, and you have to have something to say that's worthy of this woman.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to go ahead and take a real quick break. If you hold on just a minute, Bill. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Bill Patty from YourVoiceProfessor.com. And this is also Comfort Time Live, and we will be back in just a minute. 772-340-1590 if you'd like to call in and ask Bill any question you want.
Elite Electric.
We can do it.
Elite Electric.
There's nothing to it.
Elite Electric.
Ooh, amazing.
Elite Electric.
Boogie, woogie, woogie, woogie.
Elite Electric specializes in all of your electrical needs, from security lighting to surge protection and everything in between. How do you think they got their name? Elite Electric. Elite Electric has been family owned and operated on the Treasure Coast since 1988, and they're recommended by Comfort Time Live. Visit online at eliteelectricandair.com and learn more about their services. Elite Electric, service today. Proud sponsor of Comfort Time Live every Thursday evening at 6:05 on WPSL 1590.
No matter what you want, just pick up your phone, say, come on, Elite.
And we'll get the job done.
We can do it.
Elite Electric.
There's nothing to it.
Elite Electric.
The average person moves 5 times in their lifetime. If it's moving time for you, Tom Platania is ready to sell your home quickly and professionally. Tom's unique promotional plan includes real estate magazines, online listing sites, print advertising in your local paper, and exposure to thousands of people on his popular home improvement talk radio show, Comfort Time Live. Call 882-5700 to get your house on the market and featured on Tom's websites. Details about your home will reach thousands of interested buyers, but don't delay. Call Tom Platania today. 772-882-5700.
And now back to Comfort Time Live. Once again, here's your host, Tom Platania.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we are joined today with Mr. Bill Patty, and from the longtime radio, TV personality, and college professor. Now, the topic is presenting your new voice and speech communication skills for the 21st century. And I know, based on a lot of people that I speak to on a daily basis, communication is extremely poor. But hey, you talked about dating, Bill. So I guess one of the first things I'd want to ask is, within the first 30 seconds of talking to somebody, that's got to be probably one of the most important times, isn't it?
Well, actually, talking to anyone, of course, it's important when you're on dates as well, but most important for any kind of connection you have, first impression-wise, you just have 4 to 8 seconds. That's all.
Well, that's less than 30. That's even more. That's even more.
That's it. They're going to look you over. If you've ever met someone, what's the first thing they do with their eyes? Boom, top of your head, right down to the bottom of your toes. They have checked you out as far as what you're wearing and how you look, and your body language.
Right.
But in addition, the minute you open your mouth, of course. Wow! If you sound like Pee Wee Herman, you're in big trouble.
Well, it all depends on what they're looking for. I think he got
I
married
don't know.
once too, didn't he?
I don't know, Cliff. I don't know. You can ask him what they're looking for when he shows up.
So how is that going to help us in those first 30 seconds? What about our voices are going to help us to succeed better in life?
Well, the fact is, if you can speak well, if you are magnetic, if you are the person they look to when you enter the room, and there are some people when they enter a room, somehow everybody looks over to where they are because they're dressed well. There's something about them. There's a charisma, and then they speak, and they have a command of the language. Wow, this is an impressive person who can actually, again, make the complete sentence, have a great, pleasant, resonant voice, who can articulate words, says things that are funny. All of that goes along with being a successful person. These are the people who are going to really have a better career in the long run. Now, I know you have to have the computer technology experience, and you have to know all of this new app, and I'm still not into apps yet, folks, but that's what the future is apps. All of that's because people are walking around. I'm the last guy still holding a newspaper, in a crowd. But
Not an iPad, a newspaper.
No, a newspaper. I still, I get all these funny looks because I'm reading the paper, and it's amazing because things have changed that dramatically now that everybody is glued to that phone. But you can still stay ahead of the crowd by developing your voice speech skills. And we're talking about being more pleasant when you speak, smiling when you speak. Now, you come from radio, and in radio, if you're smiling on the radio, people think you're happy even though you're miserable, okay? It's just part of the persona of being on radio or doing a commercial. You have to learn how to smile and say, hey, how you doing? Oh, you hear that smile in my voice? It took me years to develop that because I started out in radio sounding like Ron Radio. They call it Ron Radio because Ron always sounds, it's 22 minutes after the hour. Hey, how you doing? No, we don't want to sound like that. We want to sound natural, and we want to have that great smile in our voice so people think we're happy, friendly. We are the person they want to talk to.
A lot of successful companies that have people that are on the phones all the time, they actually put mirrors in their cubicles so that they could look at themselves in the mirror when you're saying that, so that they can have that smile, because like you said, the person on the other end of the phone can actually they can tell it in your voice.
Sure, and I don't know where those mirrors are because the people I'm talking to on the phone, which are a lot of computers, but also the people I talk to, usually are not trained well. They tend to mumble and stumble and speak too quickly. These are the problems that people have. I was talking to a gentleman for a large corporation that has 3 letters in it, and it's like Ma Bell. You get who I'm talking about.
Yes.
And it was in West Virginia. And I couldn't understand what the gentleman was saying up in West Virginia. And when I asked him why he was not slowing down and mumbling because I was in that business, he said to me, well, everybody talks here like this in West Virginia. But I said, I'm in Florida, and you're talking all over the United States. You've got to learn how to talk slowly and not as, not mumbling and stumbling. And he said, well, let me have you talk to my boss. When I talked to his boss, of course, he was from West Virginia, and he was the head of the whole operation,
And it went
he
any better.
mumbled and went too fast. So they're not really being trained at the corporate level because
Agreed.
they don't want to invest the money it takes to make people think about the fact that they can speak better and they can affect the company's bottom line. So I do these business 3-hour PowerPoint presentations as well. That's done on site for businesses, and a lot of employees are involved, and they learn in just 3 hours how they can speak better, how they can articulate, how they can resonate, project their voices, and use pitch and tone, and of course that smile to make people want to buy whatever they're selling.
And what are some of the tools that they would use, or some of the things that they could do to help create that?
Well, first of all, it's about the jaw. You're an announcer, so you know this. You have to move your jaw in tremendous directions and enlarge. It has to be enlarge your mouth, really. It's got to be wide open when you're talking to get the sound out, particularly consonants. And I said consonants, and there's a T and an S at the end of that word that has to come out so you understand it. But what do most people say? Consonants.
Yeah.
Consonants. They don't bother because it's too much work
It's lazy,
to make
yeah.
that sound.
Yeah, it's lazy. They get lazy with their voices. Lazy. I mean, just imagine you see the difference between somebody who speaks the language properly and I guess you could say the slang version of English.
Right, and there are words on television and radio that drive me nuts. Particularly, I'm going to spell one for you here: Hundred. How do we say that, Tom?
Repeat that again.
Hundred. Cliff, does he spell?
Yeah,
Okay. Good speller.
100.
100.
You said 100.
100.
Right? 100.
100.
Cliff, how do you say that?
100.
Now, Cliff did it better.
Oh, he did it better.
Is
He's got a
Cliff
better
professional
microphone.
announcer?
Well, I read the letters.
No, they just got him from Labor Finders. That he's just here to
I
fill
just
the seat.
daily order for daily pay.
There's an R in there. There's an R in that 100.
Oh, I've heard people say 100.
Yeah, on television.
Or
the
water.
Anchors, we got
Water.
TV
I say
anchors.
water.
He says water.
I say water all the time.
It's water.
It drives, well, of course, because I'm in the business, it drives me nutty. But I see television anchors every day. I'm talking network anchors, 100, and it comes up a lot in conversation when you're doing news. So you have, and news, that N, news, the N, you push that air into your nose for N sounds, M sounds. It has to be done properly. But if you keep the air up there in your nose all the time, you sound like Lily Tomlin on the old Laughing Show. Number, please. You can't do that. And a lot of people today talk through their nose, just lazy speech. Others talk through their throat, right down here like Don Knotts. Andy, you can't talk like that either. It's got to be projection from your diaphragm. Now I've got power in my voice. I can fill a room without a microphone, and I don't strain my voice at all. This is what we teach you at yourvoiceprofessor.com.
Now that's something that I've never actually had any professional training at all, and this is what excited me about you coming on the show is I want to be a part of this. I wanted to wait to bring you on the show so I could really hear what you had to offer first. Make sure I want to make sure you're a legitimate guy.
Well, I can help, Tom.
Yes.
It's not terminal. This is not brain surgery. We can do it. You don't have to get any Botox injected.
Oh darn! I was kind of
the
hoping.
voice is relatively easy to fix. It takes a positive mindset and a good attitude from the person involved. You've got to really want to do this, and you too can improve your voice, even if you're born with small vocal folds. Now, Cliff has a very resonant voice, doesn't he? Oh, Cliff has a great voice.
I don't know. I was listening to
Is
Rudy
he the guy
Howard
that's
last
doing
night.
the news over there? Cliff, are you the guy doing
No,
the
that's
news?
Tom Teeter.
That's Tom Teeter.
Boy, Tom's got a great voice.
But I do the well, like the intro to the show. I basically like
Yeah,
the
you do the
studio
intro.
engineer.
That's great. Yeah, you want a person like you. You sound like kind of a mix of James Earl Jones and Jim Lang, and I brought him up today because he
I
just
like
passed
that.
away today, Jim Lang, from the old dating game.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a great voice too. Radio guys. These are all radio people with great voices that really project, and you really know you're listening to someone who has a message you want to take in. And that's what Cliff is doing, and he projects and he resonates when he speaks because he probably was trained, I'm assuming, to do that type of thing. But your average person today barely can speak because they have no clue the process that goes on with your vocal folds. Now, these are the mucous membranes in your throat, commonly called vocal cords, that vibrate at tremendous rates, of course, when you push air through them to speak. But the problem is no one has been taught how to properly use them. There's more involved than just using the folds. You have to actually bring the air up from your diaphragm all the way up and then shoot it past your teeth and your mouth. It has to be done so that that force is really there to project it throughout to the audience so they're getting the best sound that you can give them, the most resonant sound, not a lot of ums, and I heard some ums with you, Tom.
Yep.
So you've got to be careful of those words people throw in as crutches.
Filler, yeah.
Those
Crutches,
crutch
I like
words,
that.
ums and ahs, those can drive you crazy. And my favorite, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that
People
drives
do
me
that.
nuts.
They
I
do that
can't
all the time
stand
now.
that.
They fall into that bad habit of doing that, and it becomes a part of their language. Other people do it just because their brain is trying to catch up with their mouth, and they'll go all the time. So you have to try to edit out all of that and have a continuity and flow to what you're saying. So if you have a point where you want to say an ah or an you just don't say anything. Take a pause. It's okay.
And I
There's
think
no
we
hurry.
feel like we have to,
Yeah.
and that's why you end up doing it.
Yes. No rush.
We don't want to feel. We don't want any dead air.
No,
That's what we-
exactly,
we
exactly.
try-
Now, is that what you're talking about when you say vocal health?
Well, vocal health is really about the vocal folds. Now, those mucous membranes can be damaged, and you've probably heard about a lot of these new people on American Idol, the new singers, who are pushed and pushed on tour to the point where the vocal folds never get a chance to rest. Once you overuse them, you can damage them. Nodules start growing on them. Other problems come up, and the only way you can get out of that is either laser surgery or complete rest. Now, if you look at a person of, let's say, Celine Dion, a singer who sings in Vegas and also for recordings, she is resting her voice a certain amount of time. So if she's going to do a recording, she may rest her voice, meaning she doesn't speak for 3 days. If she's going to go to Vegas
Wow.
and start working, she doesn't speak for 4 days before she goes on, and she has an ear, nose, and throat guy on call in case there's a problem. I'm not kidding. He's
Wow.
basically there if she needs that person. Mariah Carey, who sleeps with a humidifier-type contraption that actually puts humidity in the air at night, so she's breathing that water vapor all night long so that in the morning her voice is pristine. That's the whole idea, is to make your voice pristine if you're a professional and you're trying to make a living with it. This is a voice that will last you your entire lifetime if you treat it properly. If you do like Bill Clinton has done, he has permanently ruined his voice. Now we have this raspy voice that he has because he can't stop talking. And when he was on, when he was touring for his presidential ambitions, he was going 24 hours a day talking,
Right.
and the doctor said, shut up, don't talk, rest it. He didn't do it. Now he's permanently got raspy voice if you listen to him. And there's other people with that example as well. Lucille Ball was another one who had this raspy voice toward the end of her life. Suzanne Plachette, another actress that got a raspy voice. Overuse of the voice or, smoking, those kinds of things will affect your vocal folds and change them dramatically. So you have to take care of it as if it is an important part of your body, which it is, just as you do when you're going to be, running. You worry about your knees and your other muscles in your body. You warm them up. And I warm up my voice before I go on radio or whatever I'm doing professionally.
What do you do? What do you do before you go on the radio?
Again, you can if you're driving to work down there in Port St. Lucie, where you're working down there, somewhere in that area, you can be reading the billboards. Now, I'm a crazy guy to be driving in the car with because I'll read billboards all over town. Or there's an announcer on radio, and I'll do my impression of that announcer. Or a guy on television, and something's coming up, and I'll be reading the copy off the screen.
Okay.
That's the way you warm up. You can read the newspaper or the Internet. Just read it and project, and within 5 to 10 minutes, you have warmed your voice up. So it's like you're kind of warming up your muscles to go take a run or to walk. It's the same process. This is a muscle, literally, in your throat. The more you use it and the more you care for it, the better it's going to work.
Wow, I was going to say that raspy voice like the women that Tom picks up at the bar. No, actually, going back to the crutch words, what's going on in a person's mind when everything they say to you in a conversation seems to have a question mark at the end of the sentence instead of a period?
Well, that's pretty common down here in the South. Of course, Florida used to be the South. It's more like the North now because we have so many people from up north. But if you go up into Georgia, Alabama, you'll hear people asking, how you doing today? And it's always raising that pitch up at the top of the last word. And other people drop the pitch,
I went to the store earlier. I picked up a soda pop.
Yeah.
I did this.
Their family spoke like that, and their friends speak like that.
So they pick that up.
That's why they
drives
speak
me
like
crazy.
that. Yep.
I say, why are you putting a question mark at the end of the sentence?
But they can change.
Yeah.
You can change the way you are perceived. There are people who hire me so they can get rid of that Texas accent they have, okay? Or they sound so cute and petite. I've had the women who are vice presidents of corporations, and guys are still thinking they're just the cutest, sweetest little thing they ever heard because they're down from Texas, and they talk like this, and guys just love that.
Well, them Tennessee
and you know what?
girls.
They don't get that respect that they demand, so they have to change the way they present themselves with their voice.
Wow.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we are listening with Bill Patty from yourvoiceprofessor.com, and we're talking about how we can help to we can speak a little better, that we can help to communicate a little bit better. And so 772-340-1590. You're listening to Comfort Time Live. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Bill's going to tell us what's the difference between resonate and projection. You're listening to Comfort Time Live.
Did the housing market catch you off guard? Did your home lose value for no apparent reason? Don't let that happen again. Call Tom Platania with Keller Williams Realty now, 882-5700, where the first 25 people will get a free home value package worth $400 to keep you ahead of the market. The market's on the rise, but can change at any minute. Did you try and sell your home and just couldn't get the value you deserved? Give Tom Platania a call, 882-5700, where the first 25 people get a free home value package worth $400 and see how you can get back into the market and get the value you deserve. That's 882-5700 for your free home value package.
Elite Electric.
We can do it.
Elite Electric.
There's nothing to it.
Elite Electric.
Ooh, amazing.
Elite Electric.
Boogie, woogie, woogie, woogie.
Elite Electric specializes in all of your electrical needs, from security lighting to surge protection and everything in between. How do you think they got their name? Elite Electric. Elite Electric has been family owned and operated on the Treasure Coast since 1988, and they're recommended by Comfort Time Live. Visit online at eliteelectricandair.com and learn more about their services. Elite Electric, service today. Proud sponsor of Comfort Time Live every Thursday evening at 6:05 on WPSL 1590.
No matter what you want, just pick up your phone, say, come on, Elite.
And we'll get the job done.
We can do it.
Elite Electric.
There's nothing to it.
Elite Electric.
Welcome back to Comfort Time Live. Once again, here's your host, Tom Platania.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you have refreshed those beverages as always. And it all. What are we drinking tonight? We're drinking a little bit of little vodka, a little Grey Goose with a splash of cranberry.
I got a little bit of lemon concentrate, a few drops in a glass of ice water.
There you go. There we go. Well, we're here with Mr. Bill Patty from YourVoiceProfessor.com, and he's really helping us to understand. And when I get off the radio with you, Bill, I promise I'm going to go home. I'm going to sign up. I'm going to get your CDs because you've piqued my interest.
Good. And it should be, by the way, water.
Water.
You and
Yes.
Cliff should be drinking only water. I hope you're doing that in the studio.
Oh, absolutely. In the studio we
That's
are.
exactly
Yeah,
what I got. In fact,
absolutely.
you probably hear me
Yeah.
chewing on
Maybe
the ice.
Cliff's using prune juice. I'm not sure which one you guys are using.
Was that
No,
because you sensed his age?
No,
or?
you'd know if I was. Never mind.
See, he could tell how old you are, Cliff. No. You get over 70, people can sense that.
Now, Cliff doesn't remember the Kennedy-Nixon debates. He's
That's
not
right.
very old.
No, I was in kindergarten.
You were in kindergarten. I was
Kindergarten, all right.
69. I was born 69, so I definitely
You were born
don't
in
remember.
69. Wow.
I was born in 58.
58. Okay, so
58.
yes.
And, okay, I was
We
born.
won't ask you.
I
Bill.
was born. That's true.
All right, now projection and resonance. I would think that these would be the same thing. Are they?
They are not, of course.
They are not.
And projection is what you are doing on the radio, because when you project into that microphone on the radio with great force, the microphone makes it sound even more powerful. You're probably using an Electro Voice RE20, which is the microphone that Frasier uses. If you ever watch Frasier on television,
Yep.
and he's on radio, you'll see that microphone. That is an Electro Voice RE20. Generally, radio stations use that kind of a microphone. I don't know what you guys.
Yeah, that's
do.
actually what Cliff's using. I'm looking at Cliff's using Cliff gets the very special microphone. I get just the little
the karaoke model.
exactly. I
This
get
is
the
the,
karaoke microphone.
The Electro
That's why
Voice
Cliff sounds so much better.
It does make you sound better, believe it or not.
309A.
Yeah, and
See?
that kind of microphone will drive your voice lower and give you more bass when you're on the radio.
See, he
That-
actually
guys
does
love
sound
that.
like Lily Tomlin when he's on the other one of the other microphones.
Next to Rudy Howard in here last night, I sounded like a tenor.
Yeah, it does make a difference. So those are the little tricks we use in radio to get a great sound. And going back to the old days, they have the one that David Letterman has sitting next to him, which actually isn't on. I think it's a
It's a prop.
77BX and RCA. Those microphones, Larry King used it on Larry King Live, that microphone that was sitting in front of him, even though, again, not on. The fact is, those microphones back in the 50s and 60s would also drive your voice lower, and that would help announcers.
Okay.
But the fact is, the way you want to project is you want to push that air from your diaphragm, that sheet of muscle around the midsection of your body, using that air like a singer does. Singing and speaking is basically the same thing.
Right.
You push it out, and again, with that great force that you learn to use with the exercise, I give you the exercises in that CD set, and also when we do lessons online, I teach you how to use the diaphragm and how to properly push out that air all the time when you speak. So you're always projecting, but you can make it a soft projection, because when you go out with ladies, you can't talk at full volume. You have to talk like this. Hi, how you doing? Oh, so nice to see you. Because if you're talking like this, you do what I used to do with my wife and ex-wives in the car. I would talk to them like this, like a radio announcer, and they would say, "Why are you screaming at me?" And I'd say, "I'm not screaming, I'm projecting." They said, "I want a divorce."
Hey,
That's what
let's go
happened.
get intimate.
And it took
Don't
you
project
twice. You
in the
finally
car.
learned, right?
Yeah. Be careful what you learn. It's a powerful tool, the voice, and you can overpower people. But there are times when you want to overpower them. You want to project when you're on the telephone and you're complaining to somebody about something, and you get very angry and you say, "Look, I'm going to cancel my subscription if you don't take care of what my problem is right now." Now, what are you going to do about it? Now, when they hear your voice with that power, they will tend to react to you, and they will do what you want them to do. So that may include selling them something.
Right.
You know, that's what salesmen do. You can sell better on the phone, in person, if you know how to project and use your voice. But again, it's a tool you have to be careful with. Sometimes you pull it back, as some of the announcers do on television tonight on NBC, Days of Our Lives. So you're pulling the air back. That's what really affects how much power you get in your voice. How much air am I going to use? 10%, 20, 40%? That's what you learn as a part of this course. Now, resonance is the quality of your voice. Do you have a voice women love to hear? Men love to hear your voice, even though they're heterosexual. It's unbelievable what a great voice will do. James Earl Jones, somebody mentioned, he says 3 words, "This is CNN," and he sells the whole network. And he's back on CNN because of the power of his voice. He was a stutterer early in his life, but he overcame that, and now he's known for his great voiceover work.
James Earl Jones.
No, that's and you know when you talk about the breathing and whatnot. That is actually something I noticed about myself when I teach classes. And when I teach classes, I actually, when I'm going through a long stretch, I actually run out of air.
Yes. That is called glottal fry. And it gets...
Is that an Italian lady or something like that?
Epiglottis.
It sounds like bacon frying in the pan when you get down here and you run out of air. And that happens to people on television. Are you a Jimmy Kimmel fan? Okay.
Once in a while. Once in a while.
He's on ABC every night, has his own talk show at 11:30. But Jimmy Kimmel, if you watch his opening monologue, his comedy monologue, he will do that quite often. Even though he was in radio, he was a disc jockey. Matter of fact, he worked in Tampa for a while. The fact of the matter is Jimmy Kimmel still is not trained to properly bring that air up and use it all before he runs out of it. So that's something announcers also learn, because sometimes you have to do a commercial, a very long commercial, and you have a long series of words where you can't catch your breath. And if you don't do it properly and save that air as it comes out and still have the projection, you will sound like this. You'll lose it at the end of the sentence.
It's really amazing listening. And just,
Am I going to hurt myself if I continue to do that long and drawn out?
I would have the
It's
hernia
Friday.
surgery if I were you.
On Fridays when I open up my show, I come out and I do a very long, "It's Friday." I go, and I draw it out for a long. I'm still in the same breath, by the way, and I draw it out for a very long time.
now, so
Am I
we
gonna
have
hurt myself doing that?
You could, but I talk about an old singer, no longer with us, Frank Sinatra,
Oh yeah.
who could hold a note longer than any other gentleman, right? We all know that. The fact of the matter is he learned that from this trombonist named Tommy Dorsey, who he worked in his band many, many years ago. And Dorsey would somehow hold a note on the trombone longer than anyone he'd ever seen. And when he asked him about it, Dorsey was actually sending air out of one side of his mouth while he was pulling in air from the other side of his mouth. And Sinatra came up with that same technique. So he could do that and actually hold a note so long at the end of a song you couldn't believe it. So announcers have that same ability, and it also is a part of your general health. If you can hold that sentence a long way, if you have enough air, your lungs are in very good shape. Now, I imagine Cliff probably works out every day, runs around the block. I don't know. What does he do?
Actually, I do 2 to 5 miles a day on a bicycle.
That's great. There you are.
But that's all I can do.
You do? You actually do ride a bike?
Yeah, a bicycle, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was laughing because I thought you were joking.
Oh, no. I got sick a few years ago and
Right.
lost 30 pounds, but I've decided when all that skin was just hanging and flapping, I just decided to get on a bicycle every day to.
Oh, good for you. I didn't realize
And
that.
that helps your lungs. And
Oh,
if you're an announcer, that's really great because
Yeah.
now you have the ability to really have more oxygen than everybody else.
That's right. That's
And
right.
holding, you'd be surprised sometimes you get a sentence when you're reading a piece of copy. Wow, that is long. How am I going to get through that? No commas.
Accentuate though. You just if there's no commas, then you could just accentuate. You could pause, and during that pause, you can take a breath.
Right. And there is a way to do that. But again, you have to be trained. It takes years to do that. I mean, I don't think Cliff started yesterday with this.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
something that does take a long time to do. But the general training of people for basic voice speech improvement is very, very short. We can do this in a matter of a month or so. You will notice the difference the way you speak, the way you present
Wow,
yourself.
that's it.
Yeah, it doesn't. This isn't brain surgery, folks. You don't have to go in the hospital. No doctors involved, and no surgery. This is strictly by your using your voice the way it was intended to be used, and that's the important thing because people just have never been trained.
Right. Now, what about in businesses? And we talked a little bit about personal and dating and what. And how could somebody use this tool to help them? I guess you would say succeed more.
Well,
in the
what I
business
have
life?
done is I work with people who answer the telephone at, for example, your radio station.
Okay.
Who is the first person that meets your public? It's the receptionist generally. And is she good? Does she smile? Does she know the facts when she's on the phone with somebody, or does she have to pass off to somebody else? The best receptionists are worth much more than they're making. They're more important than the CEO or the CFO or
we
the
better not
program
replay
director at
this
your
for
radio
Lynette
station.
then.
Yeah.
Oh, Lynette is so modest. She'd disagree, but you know what? You're absolutely right, and she is one of the most loving people out there who really truly loves people, and that shows too.
Absolutely. But you would be amazed how many people are working the telephones and nobody cares that these people are totally incompetent. It's kind of like when I worked in television and they always had the weakest person or an intern working the teleprompter. The teleprompter, this is what your anchor is reading the news off of. And all of a sudden in the middle of a newscast, the producer decides they're going to edit a story, cut a story. So now the teleprompter operator has to pass up that story and quickly find the next story. Well, they didn't do it, and there's the anchor sitting on camera, lost.
Like deer in the headlights.
Yeah,
I've
and,
seen
and,
that.
and they're looking for their script, but, nobody reads off a script anymore. And they're looking down. You can see with their panic in their eyes, and people are screaming in their ear. I know what's going on, and that's the problem. We have to take every job and every person and say, you are really important to our operation. You are very, very critical, and we're going to tell you why in the next 3 hours during this PowerPoint, how your voice impacts our bottom line, how you talking to people affects whether or not they're going to come back for return business.
Yeah.
That's what it's really about, and companies are ignoring that today. They only worry about chopping people's hours or making them work harder than
Exactly.
they already have been working, rather than training them to do their job better.
That's exactly it. Now, so if somebody like myself who definitely wants to get involved in this and better my voice, because I love, radio just kind of fell into my lap one day, and it's actually become a passion of mine, and I do my best to get better and better. I actually go back and listen to my shows to catch myself with the ums. Of course, I got to make it a little
That'll
bit
help
more.
you.
I got to make it a little bit more mental, but I've gotten better over the years from what I was on my very first show. But where could somebody? Obviously, we're going to go to yourvoiceprofessor.com.
yourvoiceprofessor.com. You will find on there individual information for classes, individual classes. That's just one-on-one, you and I, on Skype. I'm looking at you as you speak, so I can see your mouth,
Sorry about that.
what you're doing, exactly what mistakes you're making.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah, that's really the best way to do it. This is not something that's going to stretch out over a long period of time. Usually within 4 sessions, that's 4 weeks, I'm emailing you information, exercises, and we're working on them online, plus specific problems you may be having that I work on. I also critique people who are on television and who work radio. I listen to what they've done, and then I say, Here's an error you made. This is a word you mispronounced. Here's how you can do this better. That's really important as well to improve what you're doing, Tom. Cliff, I'm not sure we can help him. He's perfect. But the fact of the matter
Oh
is,
my! His head just swelled
come
about.
on now. Yeah.
no, Cliff, was that you that did that commercial? Somebody just did a commercial where they mentioned the word 100 several times. Was that you, Cliff?
I don't know.
There's only two people who do the commercials. If it was a male, it was Cliff.
It was Cliff. Okay, watch that R in 100. That's what I would be telling you. Now, I know I'm getting a little picky here, but if you want perfection, and that's the goal of this, you have to really take it, really heed and
Absolutely.
do what you have to do to make every word perfect as you can make it. But online, again, the individual classes are there at yourvoiceprofessor.com. The business classes are available. That's 3-hour PowerPoints. You can sign up right online, PayPal and credit card. And also you can purchase that 2-CD set, Presenting Your New Voice, Voice-Speech Communication Skills for the 21st Century, 100 minutes of exercises, information that I host, and this will go with you wherever you go. You can take it with you, replay it over and over, practice with it, and you can get better for just $60. That's the only cost for that, shipping and handling in the U.S. included. Or you can take a course, which is a little bit more, but you get me personally in real time talking to you and working with you right there online. So we can see each other, and I have one here right after our show, and I have a gentleman in Dallas, Texas I'm working with. He does an internet radio show, and he wants to go into television, totally go into television. And I'm working with him on improving him and his presentation so he can be the next Dr. Oz or the next Dr. Phil. That's the goal of a lot of these people.
Right.
And that's okay because, you know what, we need those kind of folks, and the internet is alive and well, and there's so many people now online who are really terrible interviews. You guys are really good.
Well, I
want you
appreciate
to know
that.
Of course, you're both in terrestrial radio. Most of these other folks are online, and they have no clue what they're doing. They really need help.
We also stream this broadcast, ComfortTimeLive.com and WPSLTV.com. So we're double streaming this show as well as broadcasting on
Well, I
two
tell you,
radio stations.
at my age, a double stream is really important.
Yeah, any stream is important.
All right, yourvoiceprofessor.com. Now, Bill, there's a phone number on your CD set that we're looking at online.
Right.
Is that a good number to pass out?
It's a good number, 407-797-3134. If your listeners
I have a little
will
bit different
call me,
phone number on there.
Okay, well, 407-797-3134 is the number.
Okay.
And if listeners will call me personally at that number, I will give them a free 10-minute voice analysis. Just mention you heard it on this station, and we'll give you a free 10-minute analysis.
Awesome.
I'll be listening to your voice. I will tell you what I think we can do to fix the problems you may have and anything that you think you have a problem with.
Wonderful. Well, Bill, I want to thank you very, very much for being on. You've been a great help and a very informative show, and I wish the best to you, and hopefully we can have you back on Comfort Time Live again.
Thank you, Tom and Cliff. Enjoyed it.
All right, Bill, have a great day.
You too.
All right, wonderful, ladies and gentlemen. I tell you, that was some great information, and I definitely this is something that I need. I
My
want to
fan
get
club,
better.
my fan club needs to call this guy. You know, all those
yeah.
people out there that want to be Cliff Desmond and can't.
Yeah,
well, they can.
407-794-3134. Go to yourvoiceprofessor.com, and it's definitely something that I'm going to do because I want to get better. But remember, we're ending the show with quotes. So our quote for today is, don't count the things you do, count the things, or excuse me, do the things that count. Don't count the things you do the things that count.
Gee, Tom, you're getting to be a real wise guy in
That's
your old
Zig
age.
Ziglar. Well, thank you for listening to Cover Time Live. I'm Tom Platini, and we will see you back here next Thursday around 6 o'clock. Yeah, 6 o'clock. You were listening to Bill Patty with YourVoiceProfessor.com. Have a great weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the weather.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie. This is WSTU Stewart. Time right now, 7 o'clock.